I would say to LeBron James, do you not know who these NBA players are? Do you not know who your contemporaries are? Do you not know how great the NBA players are, the greatest players in the world? And your son is being exposed. Bronny James, I hope he's an NBA player someday. I'm rooting for him. I'm cheering for him all day, every day. But he's not ready yet. Opening night is one thing. Continuing him in NBA games is another. It shouldn't have been 2 games he played in, let alone 13. Come on. Right. Pop's got to step in and yo, I can't expose my son to this just yet. This ain't right. Respectfully, it's not right.
Stephen A. Smith is one of the loudest, sharpest, and most contentious voices in sports journalism. And when he speaks, especially about royalty such as LeBron James, people pay attention. But what began as a typical basketball critique quickly turned into something considerably more personal, emotional, and heated. In the middle of it all, a father, a son, and a media giant are caught in a storm they didn't see coming. It started with numbers. It erupted into accusations. And by the time it got to the floor, it was more than just basketball. It was about manhood and parenthood, as well as what happens when someone questions the history of the NBA's most prominent family. Stephen A. wasn't criticizing Bronny James directly. He was criticizing LeBron for what he regarded as a planned and risky choice to rush his kid into the NBA before he was ready. But LeBron didn't hear it. What he heard was a guy coming for his child, his pride, and everything he had achieved. Now the gloves are off. The falsehoods, the confrontation, the raw emotion, everything is on the table. This is the story of how Stephen A. Smith and LeBron James went to fight, and why Bronny James may be paying the price. Bronny James joined the NBA with more attention than any other player in recent memory, not because of his achievements, but because of his surname. As LeBron James's son, expectations were sky high. However, the data so far suggest pressure rather than promise. According to Stephen A. Smith, this is the type of pressure that no young athlete should be under. Let us break it down. Bronny has played just 76 minutes in 18 NBA games, scoring 25 points with a shooting percentage just above 25%. In comparison, during his brief G League stay, he averaged 13.4 points, 3.4 rebounds, and 3.9 assists in 7 games. That is adequate development league performance, but nothing near NBA readiness. Stephen A. went one step farther, dissecting the figures and revealing a dismal reality. 0.3 points, 0.3 assists, and 0.4 rebounds per game in the NBA. These aren't simply poor statistics. They're statistical evidence that Bronny wasn't ready for the majors. And yet, there he was, playing first quarter minutes in a Lakers jersey, under the lights, next to his iconic father. Stephen A. was concerned with more than simply a struggling rookie. This was about bending the system to meet LeBron's fairy tale ending, even if it meant placing his son in harm's way. And with each missed shot and difficult possession, Bronny bore the burden of a decision he may not have taken. It all started on January 28, 2025, when Stephen A. Smith aired one of his most contentious segments on First Take. He pleaded with LeBron James through the webcam, saying, "Stop this. We all know Bronny James plays in the NBA because of his father. It was not subtle. It was not sugar-coated. It was vintage Stephen A., bold, unapologetic, and sure to create a fire." But this time, the criticism came not only from fans, but directly from the king himself. The context, more than the content, was what made the critique hurt. Stephen A. didn't stop with statistics. He brought back a horrible memory from sports history, when Joe Frazier threw his son, Marvis, into the ring with heavyweight legend Larry Holmes. The results were harsh. To Stephen A., the Bronny scenario echoed the same fatal ambition, a father's legacy over a son's readiness. LeBron has previously declared that if a team wanted him, they would have to pick Bronny. He also stated that Bronny was definitely better than some of these cats, who were already in the league. However, Stephen A. found those words to be pressing rather than motivating. Publicly labeling Bronny as NBA ready before he had demonstrated anything set an unattainable bar, and opened the door to criticism if he fell. According to critics, Stephen A. went too far. However, he said that LeBron was the first to breach the lines, combining heritage with parenting and business with blood. When the spotlight went red, Bronny was the only one who stood sweating beneath it.
With his son, who has NBA aspirations, playing together for the first time in NBA history. My position has always been, that should have been the only moment we saw Bronny James in a Lakers uniform this season? Because he's not.
It was March 6th, 2025. The Lakers faced the New York Knicks at the Crypto.com arena in front of a national television audience. However, the on-court drama would pale in comparison to the off-court eruption. Stephen A. Smith was seated courtside as Ari Emanuel's guest from William Morris Endeavor, alongside none other than Larry David. The lighting was brilliant. The tension was heavier than ever. And then it occurred. Following a stoppage in the third quarter, LeBron James charged at Stephen A. Smith like a man on a mission. According to Stephen A., what followed was not just hot, but also explosive. LeBron confronted him, saying, "Stop faffing with my son. That is my f***ing son." Stephen A. was taken aback, not because he was terrified, but because this wasn't a celebrity confronting a media personality. This was a father, raw and angry, throwing down the emotional gauntlet in front of millions. Stephen A. did not retaliate. He did not raise his voice. Why? Because he understood exactly what was going on, and because, as he later said, the only option would have been to cause a scene. He chose professionalism. But make no mistake, he was rattled. What happened was not about basketball. It was about borders. LeBron, long regarded as one of the world's most calm sportsmen, had lost his cool in public, addressing the most opinionated analyst in sports media. And at that time, it was clear. This dispute had reached a dead end. For weeks, the public assumed LeBron's reaction was to shield Bronny from severe media criticism. However, the truth was not completely revealed until a behind-the-scenes chat between LeBron James and his former teammate, Richard Jefferson, was recorded before a Lakers-Celtics game. In a viral video, LeBron said to Jefferson, "I don't care what he says about Bronny. I'm tripping as a dad." Stephen A. Smith experienced a moment of clarity. This was not about Bronny's performance. It was not about statistics or NBA preparation. It was about LeBron's pride as a father, which was harmed by someone challenging his parenting choices on public television. In one single remark, LeBron validated what Stephen A. has been saying all along. His critiques were not personal assaults against Bronny. They were about LeBron's decision-making, which is what struck a chord. Stephen A. subsequently revealed that he purposefully avoided seeing Bronny in high school and college because he didn't want to be obliged to criticize the son of a man he admired. However, once Bronny suited up in an actual NBA game, particularly with his father, that boundary vanished. And now that LeBron has admitted the true cause for his rage, the narrative has shifted. The media's portrayal of a child being unfairly targeted was actually a case of a parent reacting to a truth he did not want to hear. Just when everything appeared to be calming down, LeBron fueled the fire. Live on the Pat McAfee Show, he referred to Stephen A. Smith's media tour as a Taylor Swift run, accusing him of milking the situation for views, headlines, and clout. It was more than simply a jab. It was an attack on Stephen A.'s integrity. And if LeBron believed he could get away with it quietly, he had obviously forgotten who he was dealing with. Within hours, Stephen A. had gone nuclear. During a nationally televised interview, he stated, "LeBron James is full of it. In this scenario, he is lying." He doubled down, tripled down, and then he brought up one of pop culture's most talked about moments, the Oscar slap between Will Smith and Chris Rock. He added, "If LeBron had touched him, I would have swung immediately." The message was clear. You don't get to bully me. However, there was a deeper message hidden underneath the chaos. This was not about ego. It was about Stephen A. reestablishing his position in the media hierarchy. LeBron may be an idol on the court, but Stephen A. has his own kingdom. Smith, fresh off a major contract extension with ESPN, wasn't going to allow anyone, not even King James, dictate what he could and couldn't say. The conflict was far from over. Stephen A. Smith was not just upset after LeBron's charges and the viral Taylor Swift insult, but also wounded, but not in the way that they expected. The insinuation that he was betraying his group by expressing the truth wounded the worst. Stephen A. announced on national television that he is more than simply a black guy, but also a brother. "I've raised our folks. I have supported HBCUs. I have changed people's lives." He wasn't lying. Stephen A., the ambassador of HBCU Week, has helped generate millions of dollars in scholarship funds. Behind the scenes at ESPN, he has championed black perspectives, mentored new journalists, and worked as an executive producer of First Take, advocating for representation in an industry that frequently ignores it. So, to be portrayed as a sellout, as someone assaulting a young black man for power, that was the last straw.
And I just want to say for the record, LeBron James is full of it. And in this particular instance, as it pertains to his son.
Stephen A. reminded viewers that he has been protecting Bronny for years. When Kendrick Perkins questioned Bronny's McDonald's All-American credentials, Stephen A. remained quiet. When were clubs supposedly discouraged from picking Bronny due to LeBron's behind-the-scenes influence? Still silent. Only after Bronny was officially on the NBA floor, laboring in the limelight that LeBron helped create, did Stephen A. feel compelled to remark. His message was not only for LeBron, it was directed at every player watching. He criticized his performance rather than individuals. And if expressing the truth makes him unpopular among sportsmen and fans, then be it. Because Stephen A. Smith did not get here by picking favorites. He got here by being the one voice that never wavered. This was never simply a sports tale. It wasn't merely a media feud or a ratings ploy. This was a truly human moment in which heritage, devotion, pride, and pressure converged under basketball's brightest lights.
Stop this. Stop this. We all know that Bronny James is in the NBA because of his dad.
Stephen A. Smith did not despise Bronny James. He didn't want to ruin a young man's future. He was doing what he had always done, pointing out what others were too frightened to mention. And despite his excellence, LeBron wasn't hearing it as a player. He heard it as a father. Bronny is still finding his feet. He's spending time between the Lakers and the G League, attempting to show his worth on his own terms. And while the route ahead may not be easy, it will be his, not his father's, not Stephen A.'s. Hi, LeBron and Stephen A. have both moved on, but the world will never forget this moment because it displayed something raw and genuine behind the glare of stardom. A son stuck between legacy and expectations, a parent dealing with criticism, and a pundit who is willing to raise the question that no one else will. What if the crown costs too much?